Hey, what's going on everybody? Today I want to talk about Great Runes, and I really want to cover a couple really important topics, specifically what they are, what they do, how you get them, how you equip them, and most importantly, how you activate them, because Elden Ring does not do a good job of explaining any of this. And to be honest, even if you're not a brand new player, some of this stuff can go over your head and you can spend hours before you even know this stuff exists, or what a rune arc is and why it's really important to Great Runes specifically. So let's get into it. Alright, so Great Runes. Let's keep it simple and sweet here. Great Runes are basically items you can equip, and they provide a buff to your character, and a lot of times it's a pretty significant one, so you don't want to ignore it if you have one and haven't used it. And the buff that each Great Rune provides is indefinite, with a catch, obviously. And you can only have one activated and equipped at any given moment. Now, players will obtain these items whenever they kill one of the main bosses in the game. So for a lot of people, the first one is likely going to be Godric the Grafted in Stormville Castle. But even after you've killed the boss and gotten the Great Rune, that's not enough. It's still pretty useless until you go activate it at a Divine Tower. And every Great Rune has its own Divine Tower, so you can't go to the same one for different Great Runes. I didn't know that at first, so I tried to go to the same one with different ones later on, not realizing there was a Divine Tower for every single Great Rune. Now granted, I could have looked this up beforehand, but I like the idea of exploring and trying to figure it out for myself, but this is a From Software game, and they really don't give you a lot to work with when it comes to discovery, so I'm trying to save you some headache. And there's a Divine Tower in every area of the game where there is a main boss. So once you take down the main boss, you get the Great Rune, then you gotta climb the Divine Tower associated with that one. Now these towers, they're often closed shut, and they only open when the player attempts to do so while carrying the right Great Rune. Basically what I'm saying is if you get to the Divine Tower first and didn't beat the boss that had the Great Rune for it, the door won't open. It'll stay locked shut and you can't get into it. So you're gonna have to beat the boss, then come back. Then you'll be able to access the tower. Once you get to the top of the tower and you activate the Great Rune, you just equip it and you're ready to go. Nah, I'm just playing. That's absolutely not true. There's still two more things you gotta do. And if you don't do these things, the Great Rune is still useless. You see, you can't just equip a Great Rune like you do armor sets, swords, like items. You can't do it. No. You actually have to go to a site of grace and equip it from the menu there. And this isn't really unlike the way you equip magic spells. Okay, so you took the boss out, you got the Great Rune, you went to the tower, you activated it, and now you have it equipped in your character slot. And then you went to a site of grace to do this. Now the last thing to do is to trigger its effect. So to gain the actual benefit of the equipped Great Rune, you need to consume a rune arc. The rune arcs will actually activate the effects, and like I said earlier on in the video, they last indefinitely with the catch. Whatever the effects the Great Rune have, they are permanent until you die. And then you revert back to your normal state, and you'll have to use another rune arc to actually put them back on. So the Great Rune is temporary, but also permanent, if that makes sense. Now granted, you're gonna be dying a lot in this game, so it's really hard to even argue why you'd wanna use a rune arc and buff yourself up when you're gonna be dying a lot. And then there's the fact that rune arcs are finite in a single player's game, and the only way to get more of them outside of finding them in the world and buying them from merchants is joining in on the multiplayer aspect of the game. You're gonna have to play with other players, and if you help them when you help beat a boss in their game, you get a rune arc. You can also invade players' worlds and kill them, and that'll give you another rune arc if you're successful. So there's other ways to get them, but they all involve multiplayer. Now I might be heading into spoiler territory for some, but I figured I would also share what the Great Runes do and who you get them from. Now at least for now, at the time of this video, or at least until they bring some DLC to the game, there are 7 known Great Runes, and some of them are important for beating the game, while a few of them are optional. So keep that in mind. So let's just jump into it. Again, we're heading into spoiler territory. So let's just start with Godric's Great Rune because most players will likely get this one first. You get this from Stormville Castle in Limgrave, and his rune will raise all of your attributes by 5 points. Now this may not sound impressive to a lot of people, but imagine if you were just a few points shy of using a certain piece of equipment, a weapon, a spell. This would help you get over the line so you can use it, and 5 points can actually make a pretty important difference to how much health you have, how much damage you do, your overall equipment load. Yeah, it can be pretty important. Alright, so next up is Great Rune of the Unborn. Now, this rune can be obtained by defeating Renala, Queen of the Full Moon, in the Raya Lucaria Academy in, the Liornia Lakes area. Man, that's really hard to say. So this Great Rune is a bit unique amongst the other ones because it can't be equipped or activated. As a matter of fact, instead, it will just grant players the opportunity to respec their stats. Now, if you wanted to use that particular ability, you're going to have to talk to her there in the Raya Lucaria Grand Library, and it's going to cost you a larval tier to make that happen. Now, I haven't done any respecking yet, and I only have 1 or 2 larval tiers. It's my impression from playing so far that there are not a lot of them in the game, so keep that in mind. And then there's Radahn's Great Rune, and you get that just like you think. You got to go and you got to beat Radahn, and you're going to find him in Redmane Castle in Caelid. And his Great Rune basically just buffs your HP by 15%, and then it buffs your FP and your stamina by 12.5%. So you get a little buff there. And then there's Morgoth's Great Rune, which you get that by killing Morgoth the Omen King in Landel, the royal capital. And when you get his inactivated, you're just going to look at a 25% increase in your HP. Nothing really sexy there. So let's talk about Rykard's Great Rune. So this one's one of my favorites. To obtain this one, you gotta beat Rykard, and he's the Lord of Blasphemy. You find him in Volcano Manor and Mount Gelmor. And so when you activate his, what's gonna happen to you is for each enemy you kill, you get 185 HP. Now there's a lot of benefits to using this particular Great Rune, but what I like the most about this one is every enemy is a potential health boost. And if you're able to use his weapon drop, the Sword of Blasphemy, it also has that same effect. And I think they stack, so if you kill someone with it, you'll get more HP, and the special ability on that weapon also gives you significant HP back when the attack connects. So there's so many opportunities to get HP back, and it can greatly affect your playstyle, how many flasks you want to carry. Yeah, it's a big one. Now let's talk about Mohg's Great Rune for a second. First off, I don't like Mohg at all. I hate Mohg. I spent so much time trying to kill this guy for weeks. And this was before I found out there's a specific crystal tier for his attack. He's got an attack he does mid-fight that steals all your health, gives him health back. It's really cheesy, it's overpowered, and the devs knew this, so they created a crystal tier to offset how much they broke this dude. And then they created a shackle item that you can use to hold him down so you can fight him. I didn't know about either one of these when I was trying to fight this dude, and guess what? I didn't beat him. He does so much damage, he kills the crap out of my mimic and makes me... I'm getting heated. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Mohg's Great Rune, you get it from beating him, Mohg, the Lord of Blood, and the Mogan Palace. And his Great Rune, it gives the players the ability to buff the creatures when they're invading other players' worlds. So there you go. And last but not least, Malenia's Great Rune. So this is the final Great Rune, and it can be acquired by, you guessed it, beating her. And what this Great Rune does is essentially introduce Bloodborne's rally mechanic to the game. So after a player takes damage, they're going to have a window of about 5 seconds in which they can attack and heal themselves based on the damage that was received and inflicted. But there's a catch though. So as long as this Great Rune is active, the Crimson Flasks, they only heal for about 25% of the normal amount. So it's you pick your poison here. Do you want to have flasks that gives you a lot of HP, or do you want to be trying to fight for it out there in the game? Now, I really like this mechanic because it can drastically change your playstyle, which is kind of cool. Just keep in mind that right now she's probably one of the hardest bosses in the game, if not the hardest, so good luck getting that Great Rune.
No, I don't think I will.
So there you have it. That's how you get Great Runes. That's what they're for. That's what they do. That's how you get them. I want to apologize on From Software's behalf for them not being able to provide really anything like this to help the player. I rolled around with my Great Rune from Godric for hours and hours before I even realized what it was for. And then I had a bunch of rune arcs on hand, and I had no idea what those were for either. And it wasn't until I looked at what they do that I started, going backwards and connecting the dots. So hopefully this will save some of the new players a little bit of headache. But now I want to know what you guys have. What Great Runes do you have? Which ones are you trying to get? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you hate? Tell me all that in the comments below, and drop a like on the way out because this helps me out and lets me know if the content I'm creating is valuable to you and whether or not I should make more. Maybe even consider subscribing because I'm going to keep making content like this as long as you guys want it. All right, catch you in the next video.